Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on the Pink Cloud Frequency. I am your host, Brianna Wynn, and this episode is all about moderation. So, if you've ever told yourself that you'll only drink on special occasion, or that you'll have just one or two drinks tonight, or that you can be more disciplined this time, or that you don't want to quit forever, this episode is for you. You'll learn why moderation doesn't work, and we'll reframe abstinence from alcohol as consistency in your life. So if you're tired of negotiating, tired of bargaining, if you're ready for clarity, this is an episode you want to tune in for. So let's start with the quote. Success doesn't come from what you do occasionally. Success comes from what you do consistently. The same is true for freedom. You cannot occasionally free yourself from something that repeatedly pulls you back in. Whether it's alcohol, a relationship, a job, any person, place, or thing, you cannot partially expose yourself to and then expect to be free from the hold that it has on your life, right? So moderating alcohol, which is the attempt to control how much or how often you drink, or creating rules around your alcohol usage in an effort to manage its impact on your life without fully removing it, this idea of moderation that it works, it's false. But you've been seduced by it anyway, right? We all have been. Because moderation feels like a responsible choice. For those of you who may identify as an alcoholic, all the power to you. But the reality is that most middle-aged women are not alcoholics. Sure, maybe you drink too much from time to time, but you don't consider yourself addicted to alcohol. So you never really stop to consider that alcohol might be taking more than it's giving. And when you do have moments of clarity and you start questioning the reality that alcohol no longer serves you, you still aren't ready to cut it out of your life completely. So you convince yourself that moderating your intake is the reasonable and responsible choice. Moderation sounds mature. It sounds balanced. It's societally acceptable and it's appealing, right? And of course, it's less traumatic than quitting altogether. When you moderate, you feel like you're in control, that you have agency over your own life, that your drinking choices are your own. It's not the addictive substance, right? It's on you. You know that you're willing to make some changes around your relationship with alcohol, but you don't want to have to worry about identity loss and who you will be without it. You don't want to have to consider your son's graduation or your daughter's wedding or any other big future celebration without alcohol, right? When you moderate, you don't have to worry about anyone else's opinion or anyone labeling you an alcoholic. No one flinches if you just have one or two glasses of wine at dinner. They flinch if you have 0 glasses of wine at dinner, right? So of course it's appealing. You envision your moderation like you see on TV, the Carrie Bradshaws, right? Who can have 2 martinis or 2 glasses of wine every single day and wake up looking beautiful and feeling refreshed. So moderation, this whole idea that you can create these rules and manage your relationship with alcohol, it feels like the grown woman choice. You're still in control. So why should you quit entirely? And I know that this all sounds good. Trust me, I've told myself these same things countless times. But for women who are questioning their relationship with alcohol or becoming more curious about the idea of an alcohol-free lifestyle. Moderation is simply prolonged negotiation. Moderation keeps you half in and half out. And half freedom is exhausting. You become entrapped in this idea that you can moderate. Meanwhile, your life becomes increasingly more challenging as you try to execute that. Because the mental cost of moderation is so high. So when you're moderating, you're often thinking, is this my second or third drink? Should I skip this event? Is there going to be alcohol there? When can I drink again? Is a week Sunday through Saturday, or is a week 7 days from the last time I drank? Did I drink too much tonight? Will I regret this tomorrow? That's cognitive load. That's mental bandwidth, right? You only have so much decision-making capacity in a day. And when that capacity gets overloaded, you start to feel fatigue and irritability and impulsivity and reduced self-control. So when you're consuming yourself with all of these thoughts and questions around your patterns with alcohol, that's your energy being drained from other areas of your life. Your presence, your connection, your creativity, your roles, your motherhood, dating, marriage, goals, career. Moderation keeps alcohol at the center of your life. You're constantly trying to plan out your next drink before you even have it. Let's say you receive 2 invitations in 1 week, right? One is for a romantic get-together with your partner, and the other invitation is for a girls' night out, a long weekend, let's say. And so now you're becoming increasingly stressed out about which one is more important for you to go to. Because you promised yourself you'd only drink once per week. That was the rule that you created for yourself when you decided that you would moderate rather than quit alcohol completely. So let's say you do decide to go to the lake house for a weekend with your girlfriends. Can you even enjoy that beverage when now all you're thinking about is how upset your partner is with you for opting out of those dinner plans? But the idea of going to Eddie V's without a glass of wine was unfathomable to you. So now instead of having a good time with your girls, you're sitting with guilt. The whole reason for drinking in the first place was because you convinced yourself that you needed alcohol to have a good time, to connect with your friends. But you're never fully present in those experiences with or without alcohol, because your brain is taxed so heavily with these rules, with these questions, with consideration, with stress, and with all of the effects of moderating. So now when you're at the lake house with your girlfriends, you're not fully present or engaging in conversation. You're not feeling relaxed under the sun. You're not enjoying the nice, cool water. You're stressed out about your partner's feelings. And all the while, you're running mental math in the background trying to keep track of the number of drinks you're consuming. This is why the idea of only drinking on special occasions, which is probably one of the biggest things people say when they choose to moderate, this is why that doesn't work. Because first of all, what qualifies as special? Is it a birthday? Is it your birthday? Is it someone else's birthday? Is it your kid's birthday? Your partner's birthday? Is it a vacation? Is it a wedding? Your wedding? Someone else's wedding? A promotion? A girls' night? An anniversary? a graduation, a date, a holiday. Life is full of occasions. But what makes an occasion special? We just considered this on episode 7 when we talked about navigating your alcohol-free life during the Super Bowl. That was the most boring Super Bowl game I remember. And what made that game so special? Why was it a special occasion? Was it the alcohol? Or was it you? Was it the people you're with? Is it the energy that's in the room? The connection, the authenticity. What happens when you tell yourself that every occasion is special, whether it's a Super Bowl game or any other game or a girls' night or an anniversary? Special becomes frequent. Frequent becomes regular. And what does regular become? Habitual. Your brain learns the habit in those cues. A celebration equals a drink. Connection equals a drink. Relaxation equals a drink. And the cycle resumes. In psychology, there's a concept called the abstinence violation effect. So when you set a rule for yourself that sounds like I'm only drinking on special occasions, and then you break that rule, instead of returning to restraint, your brain says, well, I already messed up. And then the drinking escalates. The abstinence violation effect applies beyond alcohol. Think of your finances, for instance. Say you want to work towards paying off your debts. So you tell yourself you're only going to make big purchases for your home. But you're not going to do any more, big dinners or celebrations that cost hundreds of dollars. So then say an unexpected dinner invite comes up. And then you end up you spend a big amount of money on that dinner check. So now you've gone over your budget. And next thing you know, you're making big purchases on a weekly basis again. So now that's where your money's going and you're no longer working towards paying off that debt. It's the same thing with alcohol. You're trying to moderate your behavior, and moderation, it creates more rules. And then what happens is those rules that you created for yourself create more opportunities to fail. And failure fuels more of the behavior you're trying to avoid. And before you know it, you're back to your habits, drinking, 2 times a week, 3 times a week, maybe 4 or more. This isn't a lack of willpower. It's how your brain is designed. It gravitates to what's familiar. It's the concept of cognitive dissonance, which we spoke about before. Your action of drinking more than you promised yourself or, spending more money than you promised yourself doesn't align with your belief that you can only treat yourself on special occasions. And so you end up feeling that gap. You feel that discomfort and you end up drinking more or spending more money. So alcohol rewires your reward system, right? It directly impacts your dopamine levels, which is the center of your reward system and anticipation. It affects glutamate and cortisol levels, your stress hormones, stimulation regulation. So when you drink on a regular basis, your brain adapts. Over time, your baseline dopamine drops. Your stress tolerance lowers. Natural pleasures feel dull. You no longer get joy from, seeing your child laugh or taking a little walk in the park, feeling the fresh air, feeling grounded. You don't get the pleasure from that anymore. Your cravings increase. This is called neuroadaptation. And I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going too far into that, right? I like to stick to talking about like behaviors and things that you can comprehend. But the point is when you try to only drink occasionally, your brain remembers that dopamine spike. Your anticipation, it becomes louder than your intention, right? So if you haven't created a sober, supportive environment for yourself, you're going to return to drinking. In drinking alcohol is going to increase future cravings for more alcohol. Even one drink weakens the functioning of your prefrontal cortex. So your decision making is impaired. In the part of your brain that makes those longer term decisions, that goes offline first. So the person you are when you're promising yourself just one drink tonight, that's not the same person deciding later on that night that you're having 2 or 3. And eventually you get carried away all over again. That's why even occasional drinking keeps cravings alive. Those psychological patterns that make, just this one time turn into every weekend again, those are the patterns that keep pulling you back in. And then what happens the next day? Your anxiety increases. Your cravings for alcohol increase. Your mental negotiation begins again. You're dealing with the cognitive load and the mental exhaustion of trying to control something that keeps pulling you back in. Your attempts to moderate your alcohol usage become futile. So you never actually experience a stable mood, or clear thinking, or consistent energy throughout the day, or emotional regulation, right? You're never balanced. Your whole system's out of whack. So when you choose to moderate, you never get the full benefits from abstinence. You never feel fully present. Your anxiety cycles continue. You feel exhausted. You feel stressed. You feel torn and conflicted. Moderation becomes this constant internal debate for you. It keeps you tethered. But abstinence from alcohol, that sets you free from all of that decision making, right? You remove the negotiation. You remove the obsession. You remove that mental math in the background every time you sit down at dinner. You become simply a woman who no longer drinks. And that identity creates clarity for you. So now, imagine being able to be present with your loved ones without all that mental math in the background. Imagine not having to manage and organize your day down to a T. Imagine accepting all of those event invitations. Right now, you can go to Eddie V's on Tuesday night with your partner and still hit the road Friday afternoon for a girls' weekend at the lake house. Imagine not having to check your blood sugar levels to determine whether you should drink wine or vodka. Imagine a morning without guilt and shame cycles. A day without mental negotiations. A life where you're not always hitting the reset button for yourself. Abstinence sets you free from all that, right? Because freedom comes from consistency. Again, success doesn't come from what you do occasionally, right? It comes from what you do consistently. Freedom is something that you do consistently because your confidence is built on a consistent basis. Your decisiveness is built on a consistent basis. Your self-trust is built on a consistent basis. Your peace is built on a consistent basis. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering, why can't I just drink normally? Maybe the question is not, why can't you moderate? But maybe the question is, why are you trying to keep something in your life that repeatedly costs you your peace? You're not weak, right? Your brain is doing exactly what alcohol trained it to do when you try to moderate. So you can't feel bad for yourself if you have attempted that before or you're attempting that now and you feel like you're failing. But when you step away from that completely and you just simply abstain and you stop bargaining with yourself and you stop tracking your days and you stop counting your drinks, you regain that clarity. Your brain starts to heal. Your brain starts rewiring those neural pathways, right? You can start living a life that feels sustainable. You can start feeling those small joys again, those simple pleasures. Things other than alcohol actually make you happy and satisfied and fulfilled. You start to worry about the things in your life that actually matter. You start being able to show up for yourself and the people around you. And then you have the energy to do all of these things. You're not turning down invites because you're hungover in your bed from the night before where you promised yourself you'd only have 2 drinks, but you had fucking 9, right? Moderation does not work. If you want to free yourself from a life without all these rules and regulations and questions and considerations, you only have to make one decision. One decision. And that's to remove alcohol completely. And once you make that one decision, that becomes the foundation for every other choice that you make. So you don't have to split yourself in 5 trying to be in all these different places at once. You don't have to decide on your drive home, oh my God, am I going to stop at the liquor store or am I not? You don't have to decide, am I going to buy this wine or am I going to buy this tequila? Which one can I have tonight? No, you go home and you do things that bring you joy and that make you feel good about yourself, and you practice self-care and you practice healthy routines and you work on habits on a daily basis and you're consistent. You start to do all those things that you have wanted to do because now your brain is no longer consumed with all of these little questions throughout the day. All of these little moderation techniques. Your brain has the space now because it's not dealing with that. Now you have the bandwidth and the capacity to start thinking about other things and doing other things. So for your reflection today, ask yourself, is alcohol the main character in your life? And if so, do you benefit from trying to control the script? Or would you benefit more from rewriting it altogether? So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you got something out of this, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and consider leaving a 5-star written review. And I will be out with another episode soon. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day.